Hey, it's Lindsay. I wanted to do a video today about identity theft and fraud in real estate. And it's actually come across my desk a couple of times in the last few months. So I thought it would be great to do a video and give you my top 2 tips on just practical ways that you can protect yourself from identity fraud. Of course, I'm no expert or attorney, but these are 2 things that I have done with my own properties. So recently, in the last 2 weeks, I got a call from another broker, and he said that he had been contacted by some clients of mine that had bought a property out here in the East Mountains, and it's vacant land. And he said, this guy has an African accent, so does your client have an African accent? And I was like, no. So we both kind of knew it was likely fraud, but we're just kind of checking things out. So I, of course, contacted my clients and let them know and suggested they report it, which they did. But I also got a text from somebody asking me to list some of their land and do a market analysis. And of course, tip off was like, it's 39,000 square feet of vacant land. Like, we don't talk about square feet for vacant land. It's all acres. So obviously, and then there's some weird wording choices you see, just like, the scam calls you get. But anyway, two tips that I would recommend is, first, go to Zillow and claim all of your properties. So like for me, I have rental properties. I go in there, I put their address, and I claim them as my property. And so I go in there and I have a list. I can see what I have. And then it gives you notification if there's any activity on your owned property. So like, for instance, I had a rental property where the tenant decided to Airbnb, do a Airbnb arbitrage. So it said like, hey, your property's up for rent for short term. And I was like, oh, well, that's not in our agreement. So anyway, I saw that. But another thing that I have done this year is sign up for identity theft insurance. So that's like LifeLock. I went with Xander. But it does include, depending on the level that you get, it does include, fraud and identity theft for your properties. And so what these guys are doing is like, they're researching vacant parcels. So I helped my clients buy this property probably 5 or 6 years ago. They were going to build on it. They didn't. So it's just kind of sitting here and they're out of state. Well, they're picking through these properties that are kind of like, stagnant, not much happening. And then they're calling realtors and they're saying like, hey, I want to list this property. Can you do a market analysis? Of course, we do so much electronically with our contracts. So we, type it up, send it out, we list it, we find a buyer, we go to closing. Well, these criminals are creating driver's license with these people's names. And so they can get to closing because they have a valid ID, get the funds, and then property is sold. I mean, ultimately it falls on the title company to ensure that this was correct, although they're getting pretty savvy and doing a lot of extra checks. So with the identity theft, it covers you. And the other thing I would say is like, when I went searching for mine, I also got, there's a recovery portion. So like if your identity is stolen, then you get some help, restoring things because it's such a nightmare. So anyway, those are my 2 tips. I hope it helps, and hopefully you never have to run into that, but good to be careful. Have a great one.